One of the most beneficial things that you can do is somehow or another try to determine the questions that will be asked during your interview. Now, I have mentioned in some of my previous lectures that you can try to determine some of the questions that will be asked by going through the job description that has been shared with you, or maybe looking at your resume from a hiring manager's perspective. And then finally, you can also visit the company page or their Facebook social media page in order to understand what the company is going through and hence try to determine the questions that might be asked. In order to make your life easier, I've gone through my research and have shortlisted 10 questions that you can expect during an interview and how you can answer them, which I will be sharing in this lecture. The first question that you can expect while appearing for an interview is that what do you know about the organization? Now, this might seem as a very innocent question, but it is absolutely loaded. And the main objective behind asking such a question is that the interviewers want to see whether you have done appropriate research before appearing for the interview or not. We've had a dedicated lecture on research that is required before an interview, and I would suggest that you do proper constructive research by visiting their Facebook or their social media page, their website, and also by trying to get in touch with people who are working in that organization. When you're answering such a question, you have to share the company vision and their values. And to make your answer even better, you can share some information about how many departments that organization has. Maybe you can share names of their top executives. And then finally, you can also share some of the clients or the customers that organization has. If you're able to share this information when such a question is asked, you will gain tremendous amount of credibility in the eyes of the interviewer. So make sure you do your research properly and then go for the interview. The second question that you can expect is that what do you consider to be your weakness? And interviewers ask such a question because they want to determine whether you are self-aware or not, and also whether you are honest as well. So please don't in any circumstances say that you don't have any weakness, because if you do so, the interviewers will get after you one way or another. At the same time, trust me, this is not the time to mask your actual strengths as one of your weakness. Like for example, I'm too organized and I'm over ambitious and so on. This is something that never works. Instead, you have to think of a weakness and share it with the interviewers. But while doing so, you must tell them that you are doing different things in order to overcome that particular weakness. This is the kind of answer that we expect. We want the candidate to be honest and self-aware. And while sharing a weakness, you should also share certain steps that you are taking to overcome that challenge as well. The third question that you can expect is that why did you leave or are leaving your organization? Now, this is not the time to start bad-mouthing your previous employers or your current employers, because that is never recommended. You can never bad-mouth your current employers, because you should respect the fact that that organization has hired you and is paying you for whatever that you're contributing. If you do make this mistake, this will portray to the interviewers that you are a bad-mouther, a troublemaker, and someone who was never happy in any circumstances. So instead, what you should do is that you should tell them that maybe your role is stagnant, or maybe you're looking for better opportunities in the market so you can grow further, or you can share that you would like to further diversify your experience by working in a team-oriented role. So instead of sharing bad points about your current job, try to emphasize on what you want out of the new job, and this will give a much better answer to such a question. The next question that you can expect is that why should we hire you? Now, this is a great opportunity for you to showcase some of your strengths and relate them to the job role that you have at hand. Again, if you've done your research and if you've gone through the JD properly and have done appropriate research as far as the organization and the department is concerned, you will be able to answer this question in a wonderful way. So prepare for such a question beforehand and try to relate all your strengths, your abilities, and your personality traits to the job role that you have in front of you. This will help you give a great answer to such a question. Next up is that what is your greatest accomplishment or your biggest achievement? Again, like I've mentioned before, that if you have shortlisted some of your success stories that you've had in the past and your role in them as well, this will be an extremely easy question to answer during your interview. So practice the answer of such a question beforehand by looking at the success stories that you've had in the past. The next question, which is similar to the previous one as well, that share with me a challenge that you faced in your previous job and how you dealt with that situation. Again, if you have success stories that you have shortlisted, this will be a very easy question for you to answer during the interview. Then comes a very interesting question that personally I used to ask a lot, is that share with me an occasion where you disagreed with your boss or your line manager and how you dealt with that situation. Now, we ask such a question because we want to see whether you are a man of your word or not, and whether you are able to stand by your beliefs and support them or not. It is human nature to disagree with certain decisions that are being made in the office, but how you respond to such decisions is what we want to determine by asking such a question. So try to share an occasion where you came up with some disagreement with your line manager and how you dealt with that situation. Maybe you can share with them some of the alternatives that you offered and how you reasoned with them as far as their decision is concerned. Because mind you, we want to hire people who will challenge us as well. And we're not looking to hire a yes man, but instead we want to hire someone who can challenge us and maybe even highlight some of the mistakes that we are making as line managers. Then you have another interesting question, and that is that how would your boss or maybe your co-workers describe you as a person? Again, while answering such a question, honesty is the best policy. Tell them about the strengths that you actually have so that even if they do a reference check with your boss or your supervisor, he or she confirms the same thing. So tell them that all your strengths and how your manager or your supervisor has appreciated those over time. And while doing so, you can probably share some of the good personality traits that you have, especially those that have been appreciated by your previous line managers. The second last question that I would like to share with you is that where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to showcase your commitment towards that organization. Please don't say that I see myself in your position in 5 years, because that might not work. Instead, give realistic growth objectives that you maybe have planned for yourself. Show them that you are a person who is willing to spend some time in the organization and would like to grow further within the organization. So this is again a great opportunity for you to showcase your commitment, but do so in an appropriate manner. And then finally, the last question that you can expect is that what are your salary requirements? Now, this is something that you must have considered beforehand as well, like as far as your overall salary expectations are concerned. But make sure that you don't ask for such a question. Only share your salary expectations if the interviewers are asking for it. And if they have asked for it, try to give a range. And once you've shared the range, try to justify it by sharing some of the strengths and the abilities that you have and how they will be beneficial for the organization. Now, we have a dedicated lecture on compensation negotiation later on in the course. And once you've gone through that lecture, you will be in a very good position to negotiate your salary with your potential employer. So these were some of the questions that I wanted to share with you so that you were able to prepare for them beforehand. And I'm sure when you are addressed with such questions, you will be able to answer them in a great way.